can I ask you something?
Sure.
If we met for the first time today, would you still want to know me?
Welcome to This Explainer. Let's just dive right into something that affects, well, pretty much anyone who's ever been in a long-term relationship. Today, we're exploring a concept called the illusion of knowing. We're going to look at that hidden, sneaky emotional distance that can quietly creep into a marriage over time. And, more importantly, we're going to figure out how we can actually bridge that gap and rediscover the person sitting right across the table from us. Picture this for a second. Imagine you are meeting your partner for the very first time. Today, you don't know their quirky habits, you don't know their childhood stories, what makes them laugh out loud, or what keeps them tossing and turning at night. Would you be curious about them? I mean, of course you would. Research actually shows that our brains release a surge of dopamine when we encounter novel information about a person. It's a completely intoxicating feeling. But here is the real kicker. When was the last time you felt that kind of intense, burning curiosity about the person you've literally been living with for years? It's a wild thing, but two people can be completely physically present, sharing the exact same living room couch, and yet emotionally, they can be miles and miles apart. Now, when couples start feeling this disconnect, the immediate panic is usually, oh no, the love has faded. But as we dig into the source material for today's explainer, the core thesis is actually quite different. It's often not the love that disappeared. What vanished was active attention. Curiosity disappeared. Genuine presence just faded out. Back in the beginning, every single conversation revealed a new piece of the puzzle, but as life just sort of shifts into a routine, couples simply stop discovering each other. You know what one of the absolute greatest threats to connection is? It isn't fighting, it's certainty. It's that little voice in our heads that says, I already know what they're going to say, I know exactly how they'll react, I know who they are. But the absolutely crucial thing we forget is that people never actually stop evolving. Your partner is collecting new experiences, new fears, new hopes, and new disappointments right now, every single day. If we rely on certainty, we're basically relating to an outdated version of them, and honestly, that is exactly where the distance begins. Let's project this whole theory onto a case study from our sources. We'll call them Michael and Sarah. They've been married for 11 years. Now, on the outside looking in, there are no major crises, right? No dramatic betrayals. But their everyday life has slowly devolved into this predictable loop. Coffee, work, chores, dinner, sleep, repeat. They're constantly a little overwhelmed, navigating the exact same space day in and day out, but operating completely separately. And this routine, it eventually builds into this massive invisible shift. Imagine one evening, Sarah mentions to Michael that she's been thinking about taking an art class. And Michael, well, he barely looks up. He just gives a polite smile and says, that's nice. And the conversation just stops. Zero questions, zero curiosity to dig deeper into why she wants to do it. It perfectly illustrates how discovery just gets totally buried under the day-to-day grind. Fast forward a few days, and Sarah confesses to her friend that she honestly doesn't think Michael really knows her anymore. The really tragic irony here is that Michael would be completely shocked to hear Sarah say she feels unknown. Because from his logical, data-driven perspective, absolutely nothing is wrong. He still loves her. But here is the thing, love and attention are not the same thing. Michael is operating on solutions and efficiency, while Sarah is over there longing for empathy, connection, and just some basic validation. He thinks the relationship is totally fine, while she feels entirely misunderstood. This brings us to a really powerful realization. People rarely become strangers because they stop sharing a house. They become strangers because they stop sharing themselves. They stop sharing their random worries, their random bursts of excitement, their personal growth. And when those deeper, meandering conversations evaporate, the emotional familiarity fades right along with it. Eventually, you just end up feeling like you're standing helplessly on opposite edges of a canyon, completely isolated. So, to really grasp this, we have to look beneath the surface. It's a lot like an iceberg. Up top, you see the visible conflicts, maybe a bickering match about finances or whose turn it is to take out the trash. But as we sink into the depths, we see the real story. Memorizing your partner's logistical schedule is a completely different universe from understanding their deeper emotional needs, their unexpressed feelings, or their underlying fears. True connection lives deep down in the inner world, not up top in the calendar invites. Dwelling in these depths for just a moment, we see the unconscious mind completely running the show. There's this deep, deep longing for connection, but it's tangled up with a real fear of vulnerability and rejection. The source material emphasizes that researchers found the strongest, most resilient couples remain ongoing students of each other. They don't just rely on who they thought their partner was 5 years ago. They assume there's always more to learn, constantly updating their mental files. Because the absolute second you stop learning about your partner, you're basically relating to a ghost.
Let's pause right here for a second. I want to ask you a direct question about your own relationship. If someone walked up to you right now and asked, "What is your partner secretly worried about today?" Could you answer them? What internal challenge are they facing this exact week? What's a dream they've never fully expressed to anyone? If you're sitting there realizing you actually aren't sure, don't panic. It's highly likely not because you don't care. It's simply because the noisy logistics of life became way louder than your curiosity.
So, how do we fix this? Well, that brings us to the reframe. A lot of times, couples put all this pressure on themselves trying to get back to the person they married. But this explainer is suggesting a totally different paradigm. The goal isn't to go backward. I mean, let's be honest, we all had terrible haircuts 10 years ago anyway, right? The goal is to eagerly discover who they are becoming today. It's shifting your entire mindset away from, "You aren't the person I married," and instead saying, "Hey, help me understand the person you're becoming right now." The magic of changing your mindset to help me understand who you are becoming is that it shatters that invisible protective barrier. It creates this immediate sense of emotional safety. Everybody, and I mean everybody, just wants to be truly seen, not as the version of themselves from a decade ago, but exactly as they are in this very moment. When you open up that kind of vulnerability, that is exactly where the space for true connection is born. Okay, I absolutely love a good practical takeaway, so here is a fantastic, super simple exercise you can try tonight. First, just ask a question you have literally never asked before. Make sure it focuses on their inner world, and this is crucial, absolutely no talking about chores, schedules, or who is picking up the kids. Avoid it. And then, here's the hardest part for so many of us. Listen without trying to solve anything. Don't correct them, don't prep your response. Just listen purely to understand. When you sit down and truly, actively listen, you can even borrow some exact phrasing from the experts to get started. You might ask something like, "What's been weighing on your mind lately?" Or, "What have you been thinking about that you just haven't shared?" Or, honestly, my absolute favorite, "What do you wish more people understood about you right now?" When you drop a question like that, and you just sit back and listen to understand, you instantly begin rebuilding that deep emotional familiarity. Now, for the really wonderful news from our sources today. Strangers can absolutely become familiar again. This renewed spark doesn't happen because they figured out how to magically rewind time. It happens because they simply made the choice to become curious again. Long-term relationships, they don't survive just running on the fumes of past memories. They stay alive purely through the active, daily process of ongoing discovery. There is always, always more depth, more growth, and more stories to learn about your partner. If this journey resonated with you today, there are some amazing resources to help you go even deeper into these concepts. Check the description below to find the Kindle book, Harmony as Marriage: Elevate Your Marriage with Self-Awareness. It's specifically designed to help couples break those negative, repetitive patterns step by step. And if you're someone drawn to ancient wisdom applied to modern life, definitely look for Mantras of Love, based on Hindu wisdom. They're both fantastic tools for taking that next step toward real healing. Also, make sure to subscribe to Reframe Us for more insights and explainers exactly like this one. As we wrap up, just remember that incredibly strong relationships aren't built by knowing everything there is to know about each other. They're built by the commitment to never stop discovering each other. Sometimes the absolute shortest path right back to connection begins with just one simple, humble request. Tell me something about you that I might not know anymore. Which leaves us with one final provocative question to think about. All that depth, all those untold stories, those unexpressed dreams, they are sitting right there, directly across the table from you. The only question is, are we still willing to look? Thanks so much for exploring this with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.